Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today we are discussing Terraria, the game that everyone played in the early 2000s. It came out. It was like Minecraft, but 2D. It's the Dark Souls of Lego. That's how I would describe it. And since we have been playing so many Dark Souls of games, it is only fitting that we play the Dark Souls of Lego. And to join me on this adventure, I am joined, as always, by Pete Busby.
Hey. This is an interesting game in many ways. I think it'll be an interesting thing to discuss. I have, let's call it a fun fact this week. There are many horrible, not fun facts in the world, and I'm sure we'll have time to discuss them, but this one's slightly more fun. So I'm not going to read the title of this article because it gives away the punchline in the title. But the guy who invented the Pringles can, his name was Frederick Bauer, B-A-U-R. And when he died at 89, he had his ashes buried in a Pringles can. There was a big discussion amongst his children about what flavor they should use until somebody stepped up and just said, look, we got to go original on this one, go with the classics. And they buried their father's ashes in the Pringles can he invented. So a man who knew what his life work was about, and he pursued it to the very end. I think we can all appreciate that.
Oh, man. Now I really want to see the other prototype Pringles cans, and I want to see what innovations on the Pringles can he might have come up with over time. Like, do you think there are prototypes just sitting in his home, like slight innovations on the Pringles can?
Like the first one was like square, and then he's like, wait, this is ridiculous.
This is stupid. back to the drawing board.
This'll never work.
How do we get the tube to stay this shape? We can't.
Apparently it took like years for the Pringles can to catch on. Like people were like minds blown. They were like, these aren't how chips are eaten. And then eventually everybody came around. Personally, I hate Pringles. I think they're garbage chips, but I can still appreciate the tube.
Yeah, I think that just he had to be wandering around just, what if the chips weren't broken? What if they all were perfect chips? And for the most part, mission accomplished.
Yeah, look, the tube does what it's meant to do. And it creates, like, did you guys ever have one of those tiny little, like, plastic Pringles containers to put in your lunchbox?
I have.
I never had one, but they were pretty popular when I was in grade school.
Yeah, I mean, they keep your chips safe.
Yeah, look, if you want Pringles, that's the way to do it.
Chips you can trust. Pringles. That's great. I want to see his sketches. I assume that there are sketches of the can with like a big question mark, like chips, and then like an arrow going into a big cloud with a question mark on it.
Like whatever the patent application is, like just diagrams and ledgers, just so much.
Yep.
Which came first, the Pringles shape or the can?
Look, I would have done more background research if I knew we were just going to vote this podcast to Pringles.
No, I don't care about Pringles. I care about the can. I respect this person's dedication to their craft. I respect that they died the way they lived, in a can. Well, that other voice you've heard is our other regular co-host of the show, M. Palladino. Hello.
Hello. I hope you had fun with the fun facts. I have some fun facts as well.
Please tell me your fun facts.
These are not going to be fun for some people.
And if they're not fun for you, it's okay if you are equally as distraught as we are about these facts. If your opinion of it is like, hey, whiny hosts, get over it, kindly never listen to the show again.
Yeah.
Probably the first time you're listening, too.
I mean, honestly, yeah.
All right. So you might know that some stuff is going on in the world. So in response to those various things, I have these points to say. White silence is white violence. Black Lives Matter, defund the police, then abolish them completely, redirect police funds into public works, social reform, and education. Prisons are slavery, demand decarceration. Donald Trump is a fascist. The game industry is complicit in structural violence and spreading militaristic propaganda. Tear down every statue of a racist and burn every Confederate flag. Teachers are still undervalued and underpaid. ICE still has thousands in custody and is poisoning them with HDQ neutral 100 times a day. Cops kneeling and dancing for cameras is propaganda. Wear a goddamn face mask. The Earn It Act is unconstitutional surveillance. Pride was a riot. Transgender women of color have a life expectancy of 35. J.K. Rowling is a TERF and has been. Fuck white supremacists. Justice for George Floyd. Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, Joan Pedro, Ahmaud Arbery, Tamir Rice, Kendrick Johnson, Crystal Kaiser, Deion Johnson, David McAtee, Sandra Bland, Emerald Black, Shakiri Abdi, Sean Reed, Khalif Browder, Leilene Polcano, and all of our black, brown, and transgender brothers and sisters being killed in the streets every day. Fuck Andrew Cuomo. Fuck the NYPD. Give all of our Patreon money to Black Lives Matter charities.
And that is just what we're going to do. So the Patreon money that we have currently accrued, I believe you will be selecting a charity, or you have one in mind.
I would like to give it to Trans Women of Color Collective.
Excellent.
Sounds good to me.
We will take our current Patreon money and send it there. So thank you to everyone who supported the Patreon. I know that we've said that we've been using it for games and the music you hear at the intro and the outro. We've been using it to help offset some of the costs, but right now there are more important things than our little show. And I think everyone who's supported us through Patreon understands that we care about these things as much as they do and would be on board with this. So thank you to everyone who's continuing to support us, everyone who has, and if you can't and you would like to spend your money another way, that's fine as well. Maybe consider also donating. So, again, it also feels weird mentioning the Patreon after saying that. So, I'm not going to do the normal Patreon spiel. There's more important stuff. So, if you would like to donate to the Trans Women of Color Collective, if you would like to donate, it's a very easy URL, 2cc.us. So, twocc.us. So, great. Thank you, M. I echo all of those sentiments. I was at my local protest last Sunday. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. No one got roughed up. But that is not the case everywhere. And just because there is the threat of getting roughed up does not mean that we can just sit at home. There are more important things right now than safety. There are more important things right now than order, most certainly. And I think that the police are starting to crack. It turns out that hundreds and thousands of people protesting day after day after day will wear them down and wear down the governors and the leaders of these largely liberal cities to start making changes. So I just saw just today like a bunch of Confederate statues that for 100 years almost stood, or 50, 60 years, with the understanding that they could not come down for reasons, are just down now. Turns out that if you just went to the street enough times, you could just take them down.
Yeah.
They recently took down the statue of Frank Rizzo in Philadelphia, too.
Hell yeah.
Who was a horrible, horrible racist and, didn't deserve a statue at any point, especially not now.
Yep. My time in Richmond, going down and seeing in Monument, I think it was Monument Street, there were...
Monument Ave.
Monument Avenue, the Confederate generals, just all Confederate generals.
And Arthur Ashe.
Yep.
So, the city doing its part for diversity.
Yeah, so they finally took down Robert E. Lee. I think they are taking down Stonewall Jackson soon. But, yeah, change can happen if you fight for it hard enough and you never stop. So thank you, Em, for mentioning all of that. I hope our listeners are similarly fired up, ready to go. try to make the most of this moment, because half the country is not unemployed all the time. And we've got a moment right now to do something, and we got to make the most of it. Well, I've got my obsession of the week. It's not going to be as fun because, well, it might be fun. It's just not something that's going to be as tonally resonant, I don't think. But I've been playing What the Golf? I was considering it for the podcast game, but I felt like it's a game that I just want to play in short bursts, and I don't want to have to binge it. I saw it at PAX East this year, and What the Golf is how would I describe it? It's an arcadey sort of game. It is level based, but the main conceit is it's a bunch of different one-off levels that just apply golf controls to everything. So
Is that what that game is?
Think like Tiger Woods golf controls, like you have a power and a direction, and then you swing, and then depending on how
like the classic Mario Golf, sure.
Yeah. So they take those controls and just apply it to whatever. So like the first level, you're a man lined up to hit a golf ball at a flag, and when you let go of the controller to hit, it hits the man instead of the ball. And the man starts moving, and you swing him. And if you hit him into the flag, you win. It continues to escalate from there. Like, there was one level where you start at the hole, and there's a gigantic hole in the ground that says 1, and you swing, and it hits the hole, and the hole starts rolling. There's bowling balls that you hit like golf balls. There was a level where you're using golf controls to hit a house. And it keeps escalating and coming up with new ways. There are parts where it emulates other games using golf controls. So it's a fun experience, lighthearted, and if you need a break, if you need an escape, it is low impact, very fun. What the Golf? It's a blast. So without further ado, just a reminder, if you want to get in touch with the show, you can do so at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us there. We don't have any emails for this week. On the Discord report, from our Patreon Discord, do we have anything?
The Discord report, let's see.
Well, everyone's gotten into Final Fantasy XI.
Oh yeah, that was the big thing.
Of course, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
So, for those who are not a listener to our regular Final Fantasy coverage, we just wrapped up Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, the movie, and Last Order Final Fantasy VII, the anime, which isn't very good. And after those, I wanted to do something fun, and I said, I want to do something fun, let's do Final Fantasy VI, or maybe 14, something in the zeitgeist. And then, friend of the show,
Those
Jeff.
are in the zeitgeist?
In
the Final Fantasy zeitgeist?
14 is. 14 had a new expansion recently.
Gotcha.
6 is just very good. It's widely considered the best or one of the top 3 Final Fantasy games, and I agree with that stance from what I've played of it. I've never finished it. I was like, yeah, I want to have a good time. And then a friend of the show, Jeff, said, what if instead we did Final Fantasy XI? Because it's not doing so hot.
Been out for 20 years. You give it a chance.
Yeah, Pop, he's been around a long time, and we're not sure if he's going to make it to next Christmas. So maybe we should play this game before they shut it down, which was a fair argument. And so now we're playing Final Fantasy XI, and now much of the Discord has joined us.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll have a guild by the end of this.
Yeah, that game's weird.
Sure is.
I kind of am into it now that I've actually figured out where the quests are and such. I don't know if I like it yet, but I don't know. Maybe I'll join in on the next Final Fantasy podcast.
It is without a doubt a game.
It sure is a game.
You can play it. I don't know if you want to yet. It's a weird thing. But that's what's going on in the Discord, is mostly coordinating Final Fantasy 11 times so that we can do missions together.
Yep. Have we successfully done that yet?
I've played with people, friend of the show, Reki and Jeff. We have played some FF11 together. We've killed some orcs. We are on Carbuncle for people who would like to join in. And we all started at Chandelier, I think is the name of the place, the elf town. I'm a red mage. I'm a Galka red mage. There's one of the races that's all bulky dudes with tails. And I picked that one because it seems stupid.
They're alright. They became Rogadin in Final Fantasy XIV, which are much better, and I play one.
Well, I love that in 14 they kept all the same races, like in terms of aesthetics and properties, but just gave them other bullshit names.
Yep. It's possible that the world of 11 was an alternate reality, but you won't know about that for a while.
Awesome.
So forget I said it.
What is your character in 11?
I am a Tarutaru thief. So
Excellent.
I am tiny. I was running around with a Mandragora head for a while. Just sort of role-playing, being a weird little creature.
Awesome. Well, if folks would like to join us, we're on Carbuncle, we're at Chandelier, and we're trying to figure out how to play the game.
If you know how to play the game, please
tell us.
Tell us.
Why is it fun? Please tell us. Write in. So without further ado, let's discuss Terraria. So this is a game that I've had in my library for probably close to 10 years now. And it's nice to finally have a chance to play it. And what's Terraria?
Terraria is an action-adventure sandbox game developed by Relogic in May of 2011 is when it first released. Published by 505 Games. It is a 2D sandbox game that is about exploration, building, crafting, combat, mining. It's got single-player and multiplayer modes. It is kind of like a Metroid aesthetic, if Metroid and Minecraft had a baby. You are in a procedurally generated world. You have a few basic tools that get you started. You have your copper pickaxe, your shovel.
And a short sword.
Yeah. And that is what you start off with. There is a guy walking around next to you who is your guide. And then over the course of the game, you mine, you build houses for NPCs. There are some bosses you can fight. And you sort of build up a little village, your home base, that sort of thing.
Yep. And it is pretty much a game of make your own fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, first question, how long did it take you to have fun? Did you have fun?
I mean, there were moments. I'm desperately trying to remember some. I mean, like, if you like navigating menus, you're going to love this game. It's going to be your favorite game of all time.
Second only to the Play Online loader for Final Fantasy XI.
Yeah. Oh, man. What a menu. What a series of menus.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it took me a good half hour to an hour. So the first time I tried to play this game, I did not know what I was doing. I booted up. You have to make a character and then make a world for that character to go into to actually play. My first character's name was Ouch, and I picked classic Terraria because I wanted to know the real stuff. And my world's name was the Vast Rift of Nightmares. And when I started the game, and I figured, you know what? This is a game about digging. I'm just going to dig down as far as I can go. And I'm going to see what happens.
You can go far. Like, you can dig.
So I just started digging south from where I started for as long as I could. I eventually ran out of light because there's a day and night cycle in this game. And once it got dark, it became harder to dig because I was just blindly clicking in all directions. And then at one point, some bubble icons appeared on screen,
Mm-hmm.
and it became obvious that I had fallen into water and was slowly drowning. So I dug a big hole, fell into water, drowned myself, and then went, okay, now let me try to play the game right, quote unquote. The tutorial person, who they start you off next to, did not really explain anything. I didn't understand how to play the game at all. I was getting attacked by zombies constantly and was dying, and I was having a very bad time. Then I reached out to some friends who have played Terraria more and played some multiplayer, and then I began to understand why people like this game. Because playing this game by yourself with no idea what you're doing is bad. It does not explain itself at all. It's unclear where the fun is. There's a bunch of items that you can craft, but if you don't go to a wiki, that's not readily apparent. You're collecting a bunch of resources, and it's unclear how to spend them. The menus are fairly inscrutable. The game doesn't even pause by default when you open the menus. Like, you have to enable pausing. So that was all very off-putting at first. But once I had a guide, a person to guide me through, like if I was reading a guide, I think I would still hate it. But once I was playing with another person who was guiding me through and actually told me that my seed was uniquely fucked and bad.
You didn't get it from the name?
Well, the Vast Rift of Nightmares seemed especially bad, but the very first, like right next to where I spawned, was a large cave that emptied into a just very deep chasm with a treasure chest that was rigged with explosives, several traps that just immediately killed me, like darts that would poison me, and I didn't have antidotes because it was 2 minutes into the game. And then there was a statue rigged with a pressure plate of some kind that spawned Medusas, and they just turned me to stone and killed me. So I was just like immediately encountering mid to late game enemies. But on the upside, because that very deep tunnel existed, it meant that I could get access to very rare materials early in the game without digging that far. And so I was able to just jump straight to the mid game in like a half hour. So the game changer moment for me, other than just like having a person teach me how to play, was getting a grappling hook.
Oh, yeah. Those are really helpful.
Did y'all get a grappling hook?
Yeah, I was very bored of building platforms and jumping everywhere, which is your other alternative if you can't climb things.
Which kind of grappling hook did y'all get?
I got a slime grappling hook because I killed a lot of slimes, and I think the king slime spawned eventually. I forget if there was a trigger for that or not. And then I killed him.
So the king slime will appear randomly sometimes. The big trigger is if there's a slime rain, which is literally raining slimes, and you kill 150, then he will appear always.
That's
Gotcha.
amazing.
Okay. So he drops the slime hook, and that lets you, like, I think you can throw 3 hooks and kind of Spider-Man your way through tunnels.
What?
Yeah, it's useful.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that was pretty good. Stuff like that, like getting a double jump was also really helpful. Because there are a lot of times where you just can't, like, make a jump. So once you get the double jump, it kind of makes it so not only can you reach higher places, you can also cushion your falls. Because I don't know about you guys, but I fell down a lot of holes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
It's weird, like, because of this game, I fell all the time, but because the game, like, so much of it takes place underground, one of your most precious resources is just light.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just need to put torches or glow sticks just everywhere so you can actually see what's happening.
Yeah. I had a bit of an advantage because I had played previously, and I had a item that made all my attacks fire. So I had, like, one of those flails that you could spin around you, and it was on fire, so it acted as a light source. So I would just spin that the whole time. It acted like a shield and also lit up my path as I was going. So that was pretty useful. I didn't have to waste a lot of torches going through tunnels and such. Yeah. Pretty good. Not bad.
Sounds good. I got an emerald hook, and it was pretty good. It just had a pretty long range, and just not needing to constantly build platforms or come up with creative ways to jump or dig my way up. Like, that stuff sucks. But being able to actually platform properly is pretty solid. Other game changer, getting a sword, a broadsword instead of a short sword.
Very much. I used the pick at the axe. I guess the axe at the beginning instead of the sword, just because it has such a better swing radius.
Yeah, the basic sword that they give you just like pokes. It doesn't slash. And you have to sort of angle your attack. So if you are not angling correctly, you will just poke above like a slime and not be able to do anything.
Yep.
It's rough.
Sucks a lot.
Yep.
So getting even a wooden broadsword turned out to be much better because you could actually hit things. And most of the enemies in this game just run straight at you blindly like idiots. So you don't actually need to do that much. And you have knockback too. So you can just, as long as you're making contact with them, they'll eventually die. And you heal pretty regularly in classic mode. Did either of you mess around with journey mode at all?
I basically just stuck to classic.
Yeah, I was on classic. I did a multiplayer game that was whatever the hardest mode is. I did hardcore. Oh no. No, hardcore is super hardcore. It must have been medium because if you are on hardcore, you permanently die if you die.
That sucks.
The character turns into a ghost and will be deleted upon logging out.
Grim.
So definitely not that. It must have been medium. So you drop your stuff when you die. So that was rough. Journey mode is like the easiest. It's got tools that you can use to just sort of mess around, like with crafting and building. So
yeah,
it's easier.
You start with I think it's either a super jump or a double jump and a glide. And then you've got a bird hat that will just attack enemies for you too.
Oh, that's nice.
So you basically just get to run around and have fun. Which was enjoyable, but I was just like picking up incredible item after incredible item. And at a certain point, once you have so many things, nothing has meaning anymore.
Yeah.
Like I had a bird hat that was murdering everything that wanted to attack me. Why do I need a fancy flail?
Fancy flail is pretty good though.
True. So did you all run across any fancy biomes?
Let's see. Well, everyone starts in a regular forest. There's usually a desert next to it, and then snow on the other side. There's some really weird, like the Crimson is one of them, which is all red.
Or the corruption. You get one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically just like the evil nature.
Yeah. Corruption's rough. I ended up with corruption in my world. And there's just things flying around attacking you. It's really dark. It kind of sucks. You don't want to build anything there, really. Yeah. What'd you have?
I encountered on the surface, I had the Crimson, there was a forest, fancier forest, a desert. I went all the way to the beach, and then there seemed to be an ocean. I don't know if you can cross that, but that's where I stopped because I couldn't.
Yeah, you don't really cross. It's just sort of like, it's the end. Like,
Okay,
you could swim it, but there's not that much past it.
Okay. Yeah, so I got to there in one direction. But because of my large, incredibly deep cave at the very spawn point that I started, I was able to find the subterranean glowy mushroom biome.
Mm-hmm. I had that too.
That place is pretty cool. I also had I created a graveyard. If you die in one place too many times, it becomes haunted.
Yeah.
So it turns out my early deaths made everything haunted.
Haunted by what? Like just like your past ghosts?
So if you die enough times, each time you die, a little
Gravestone.
what do you call it? Gravestone drops, and then if there's enough gravestones in one area, like a mist floats in, and then ghosts spawn. I think more zombies show up. I don't know if it counts as its own biome or not, but it's kind of neat. And then if you destroy all the gravestones, it goes away. So it's not super harsh if you don't want it there. Just kind of punishes you for dying a lot of times with some extra stuff showing up.
Yeah, it's an interesting design decision, and I think it's a lesson for all of us. If you ever encounter a ghost, destroy all the gravestones you see.
Yep.
I just do that in general. They don't let me in cemeteries anymore.
Desecrate all of those tombs, and then you'll be ghost-free.
Mm-hmm.
It's a major plot point in Buffy.
That's true.
So, did y'all encounter any bosses?
Yeah, I've fought the Eye of Cthulhu, which like I don't understand why everybody loves Cthulhu so much. Like it's not that great of a story, and H.P. Lovecraft is kind of a shitty guy too. I think he might have been. I think he was definitely a racist, actually. Now that I think
100%.
He was definitely
he
a
was
racist.
super racist. But I fought the Eye of Cthulhu. It's basically what it sounds like. It's a giant floating eyeball that shows up when you hit certain triggers. I mean, the bosses, they're interesting, some of them, but it seems like for the most part, the boss pattern is basically like big thing that flies around the screen after you.
Yep.
That generally seems to be what most of them do.
And if it makes contact with you, it hurts.
Yeah. I think some of them like fire stuff at you. I don't know. It's not like super difficult combat wise. It's just if they get on top of you, you will die.
Yeah, the bosses are not challenging. The part of the game that's challenging is that you start with terrible controls and weapons that don't do shit. And you need to acquire the ability to control like a normal game. And then once you do that, you can deal with these enemies that just, like Pete said, fly at you directly on a line. And if you have good armor and some mobility items, you will generally be able to deal with them just fine. I fought Skeletrex. It was a big skeleton. Skeletron, yeah.
Equally as dumb. I mean, it wouldn't matter what you picked, but
I fought Skeletor. He was annoying. He was a big skeleton head with little hands, and he killed me because I fought him solo. Though I did have some decent weaponry, I just was not prepared for fighting a boss.
Yeah. That one doesn't exactly tell you it's going to happen. You just find an old man standing in front of a dungeon. He's like, my master. And then you're like, I'll help you cleanse you of this curse. And then a giant fucking skeleton with arms shows up.
Yep.
yeah, you're instantly punished for trying to help an old man.
Yeah.
They're like, you idiot, why would you help this person?
Yep, it's a lot of this game. Like, just walking around and then boulder traps fall on you, or you get shot by dart traps, or enemies just spawn randomly near you. Then there's darkness. If you run out of torch, you can have problems where you can't put a torch into certain spaces for some reason. It was unclear to me where I could put a torch most of the time, so I just ran around clicking, hoping that a torch would land somewhere. I'm sure there are rules, but I don't know what they are.
Like the biggest one is like background color.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, like, when the underground changes color, you can no longer put a torch on the background, basically.
Yep, sure.
Yeah.
So,
There's a
did you-
weird, like, 2D, like, background mechanic with this one that you don't normally think about with your platforming games. You can, like, put stuff on walls. Like, you can put a torch on a cave wall, so it's just sort of floating. But then other places, there is no background. And so, how do you know? I don't know. There's
you
no way
read
to
the
tell.
wiki,
Yeah, you read the wiki. That's the whole thing.
much
This game,
like other
if you-
Souls games.
Yeah, if you don't read the wiki, you're going to have some trouble with this game. Because it doesn't tell you shit.
Yep. And that goes double for the crafting system. Like, I acquired a bunch of goods and then didn't know what to do with them because there's a craft button hidden in the menu. And I would say hidden, like it's hidden in plain sight, but there's just so many icons on screen all at once. It just becomes very hard to parse when you open up your inventory. And I did not realize that it's a pyramid scheme to craft things. First, you need to craft a workbench, and I'm like, yes, now I will be able to get things. And it's like, no. With your workbench, you're going to be able to craft a smelting station.
Mhm.
Okay, great. With your smelting station, you're going to be able to make bars of silver or lead. Okay, cool. And then I get to craft cool things. No. Then you craft an anvil, and then you can craft some armors. But you also need a kiln to craft certain things, and you need to be adjacent to these structures to use them. So you kind of want to situate them all in kind of a home base, and you keep building your way up until you can kind of get the cool items. But it's just kind of it's inscrutable.
Yeah, the whole thing really seems like a series of bait and switches. Like the crafting, definitely. Like anytime you think you're building something cool, you're just building ingredients to eventually make something cool. But then, like, so another huge part of the mechanics, like, game seems to be like building a town.
Yep.
Like there are a whole bunch of NPCs, and if you build them houses, they'll come and live in your village, which is like cool. So then I'm thinking like, oh, like all right, so the crafting's weird, it's kind of annoying, but this is a game about me trying to like create a village, and like kind of, but then you start digging downward, and eventually you end up in hell, and you find out, oh no, this is a game about fighting hell monsters. Like the villages are just there to help you eventually get strong enough to kill hell monsters. It's like weird. It's like if they took like all the things that people seem to like about Animal Crossing and were just like, no, dark, gritty hell beasts.
I mean, I think that this game, weirdly enough, has a lot in similarity with Hollow Knight.
Mhm.
You are just acquiring a bunch of villagers for your base town, which is generally on the surface or near the surface. You can put it wherever you want, though. My town was subterranean at the mouth of the cave. My people were mole people.
Okay.
But you're just, putting all of these people into places so that they are shopkeepers for you, and then you can buy a bunch of goods so that you can delve deeper into this wasteland below you to defeat bosses and get cool loot. And that's just, that's just a good old-fashioned fun. That's just video games right there.
Mm.
This is one of the most video games we've played in a while. And it doesn't have a lot to say that I could tell. Like, most of the enemies' names seem to be like memes or jokes. There's not much story to go off of. There were enemies, but I couldn't tell any sort of larger overarching story. There was a monster named Skeletron.
Skeletron. Like
Skeletron.
Yeah, like Tron.
Of
I
course.
think there is a bigger one that is named like Skeletrex or whatever. Skeletron Prime. It's got 4 arms instead of 2.
See, Skeletron Prime. See, it's a reference. Everything's a reference.
Is there any? I didn't pick up on sort of like any meta world. Like presumably there's some backstory to the old cursed man, but do we ever find out why or how he's cursed?
He was
I don't
gone
think so.
after I summoned his skeleton lord.
Yeah, he becomes another NPC. He makes clothes.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't kill his skeleton man. He killed me, but then he was gone the next time I tried to find him. Is he just freed as long as I challenged the skeleton?
If you kill the skeleton, yeah.
Old man. Oh, when Skeletron is defeated, the old man is freed from his curse and will arrive as the clothier as long as a vacant house is available and allows access to the dungeon.
What happens if you fight the skeleton and you die?
And you respawn and try again.
Yeah, he comes back the next night.
Oh, the next night. Okay. I just didn't wait a full turn.
That's
The
true.
night
We
cycle.
didn't mention the day-night mechanic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pain. You have to wait around, and then
Yeah.
the day changes to night, and at night there's zombies because it's Minecraft.
Yeah, stuff gets worse at night.
Night is tough. It lasts for seemingly forever. Sometimes night even has like extra things, like a blood moon. Did you get any blood moons?
Yeah, I got the blood moon.
Yeah, that's like enemies just get really messed up and they start swarming you. It's basically like defend your town all night. I think it only happens if you defeat the eyeball. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't remember. Yeah, maybe.
There are
I
some
didn't defeat the eyeball,
conditions.
so I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes a goblin army comes out, and it's like a wave system. You could force a old one army is another one that is apparently a Dungeon Defenders 2 crossover event, which is basically you put a little platform down, and then when you're ready, you hit it, and then enemies like start swarming out of the thing, and if they hit the platform that you built, they will like end your run. And I don't know what the reward is because I never actually finished it. Yeah, it's just like a wave thing. I don't know. The flying ones are a real pain in the ass in that because other ones, they just walk towards the platform, and then the flying ones will just go like in the floor, and then you cannot hit them because it doesn't allow you to hit through solid objects. And then they mess up your little crystal. Kind of sucks. It's really hard to do with, like, I had 4 people who were doing it, and we still couldn't get through the whole thing. So
Cool.
I can't even imagine doing it alone.
What? So, like, I never really played Minecraft, right? But, like, who is playing this game instead of Minecraft?
I would say, because my cousin played a ton of this game and not Minecraft, not as much Minecraft, it does not have the, like, freewheeling, I'm going to build the world of Minecraft. Like, you can do some stuff in Terraria in terms of building your towns and creating different structures, so you can do that sort of fancy world building. But there's a lot more structure to the combat and to the enemies than there is in Minecraft, so you can focus a little bit more on defeating bosses or adventuring and fighting monsters in a way that Minecraft didn't allow. So I think Minecraft is a lot more of a Lego set than Terraria is, as odd as it sounds from our intro where I said this is the Dark Souls of Legos. But this game is a lot more there's a lot more normal gameplay to this.
Right.
It's not just creating things. Like when you're crafting something, you just need to have the items in your inventory and then hit a button and it'll craft it. You're not arranging blocks on a grid to create, a blueprint that then lets you create a sword, like it is in Minecraft.
I guess I understand that. There seems to me like if you wanted combat, the combat's not that great.
No, but this game does allow for a lot of very freewheeling open world multiplayer. So
maybe I never played multiplayer. I only played myself.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the multiplayer's the thing. You basically can pull people into your world, and they can join you and help you out, and you can go on adventures together. And it's basically a big chat room, is how it's used. by the people who really like it, for the most part, from what I've seen. It's just got a very easy-to-use server system. You can do group chat with everyone regardless of where they are. Like, I would be talking to people and being like, oh, crap, there's this big-ass monster. And then they'd be like, oh, where? Let me come help you. Or I, like, went down and was digging, and someone else was towards the surface making the mole people town. And then someone else was adventuring in a different direction. And we were all in communication together. So it's kind of like the way that when I was growing up, I would just be playing Halo multiplayer. Even though I didn't love Halo, it was just the easiest way to get 4 friends onto a group chat, and that was the game that we happened to play.
Okay.
I think Terraria just came out at the right time for a younger set and kind of became that game. Like, my cousin has over 1,000 hours in it.
We used to do that with Counter-Strike, and I hated Counter-Strike. I still do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's certain games that people just get into as a social way to just hang out with friends. Mm-hmm. And this game, it's a pretty low barrier to entry. It's cheap. It's got a lot of the Minecraft aesthetic and appeal. But there's a little bit more game here for people who want to just make some progression or have combat and platforming. So you get a little bit more of a lean in that direction versus just kind of creating stuff to create stuff.
Yeah. I think the reason I downloaded this originally is my girlfriend, when we started going out a year ago, really wanted to play Minecraft and build a little town. But the server system for Minecraft was garbage. And so we decided to instead play Terraria, which is just, you could do it easily through Steam, like just start a game and then people can jump in. So that's why we're not playing Minecraft, I guess. So.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you can just pair with people through Steam is a revelation compared to, having to give direct IPs or come up with servers and passwords and shit. Like, this is pretty simple.
Yeah.
You can even say, like, who's allowed to join? Friends, friends of friends. Do you need a password? You can lock down your multiplayer game. I think you can even kick people. So, like, a lot of this is just ease of use stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, did y'all have a good time with Terraria? Would you play again?
Mm-hmm.
No, I guess.
That's fair.
I mean, this game wasn't really in, like, my wheelhouse of, like, things I'm interested in. I don't really like crafting, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I like
macrame?
Like, I don't. I cross stitch. I knit. Cross stitching is easy, but it's a pain in the ass because the holes are so small. But no, like I really did enjoy the open world exploration, like the digging. I like digging in games for whatever reason, I guess. But beyond that, I don't need to dig for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got through like 2 or 3 biomes and was like, yeah, this is cool. I bet there's more down there. I don't need to keep going down. As soon as it became a hassle to get back where I was when I died, that was when I checked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's really no reason to go back where you were anyway. I don't know. Would I play this game again? Probably. If I was playing with other people. The multiplayer aspect is much more compelling than a single player. And you don't have to do all of the work that you would if you were alone. Like, if you were mining out the whole underground, whatever, with a team of people, it's a lot simpler, which is, just a quality of life thing. And then just dump everything into chests, and then whoever wants to craft can craft. I don't find the crafting compelling. I don't know.
You didn't like getting swords that were of slightly fancier metals and with slightly higher damage output?
No.
Damn.
I mean, like, I could do that in Minecraft. I could do that in basically any RPG-ish game. I don't feel as though I have to defeat the bosses in this game to like finish. And it's really hard to actually fight them just because you're fighting against the game most of the time.
Yep.
So
Your greatest enemy is the game itself.
yeah. I don't know. It's just a place to, bum around with friends for a bit, I think.
There are definitely worse ways to bum around with friends than Terraria.
True.
Back of the box quote.
You could do worse.
You could do worse.
This game also seems like it really wants to do everything, like everything, all at once, which is weird. Did you get that sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's like 6 years worth of updates at this point.
Oh, yeah.
That we were playing with, because we played this because the final Terraria update was sent out earlier this month, I think, or maybe it was last month.
Mm.
And so we were thinking it from that perspective. And could you imagine working on the same game for 6 years when it's been out for all 6 of them?
Yeah.
That means they probably were working on it for like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 or 4 years before that. Like a decade just to improve this digging game.
Yeah.
I mean, I applaud their persistence. Like, there's something to be said just for working hard on something. But I definitely got a sense of diminishing returns with the crafting system.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was so much to do. I was just like, I can't navigate any of this. I'm not going to build anything anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I guess I could make a platinum chandelier.
Mm.
But why? Why would I? Because it looks cool, I guess. But that's a lot of effort to make a platinum chandelier.
Yeah, the crafting UI is not great. The inventory is also bad. Like, I'm looking at the wiki that has the different crafting on like different systems, and it seemed like they had an okay one for like the 3DS, and that was it. And then mobile also had an okay looking one, and then whatever was on the desktop, I don't know what they did. It's just like you use the scroll wheel to navigate it. It doesn't work. It's strange. It's just odd. I don't know who decided that.
I don't know. But I think that's all we have for Terraria.
Yeah.
This game's solid. Like we said, there are worse ways to spend time with your friends. But if you're trying to do anything but spend time with your friends, like playing this game alone is kind of a bummer, I found. I'm sure that there are people that it appeals to just have this crafting, some light combat, and then a lot of exploration. But for me, I need a little bit more story hooks. Maybe I need a more intricate system that is not just acquire resources by digging and then go spend them on objects. Like maybe if there was a better economy to convert from one to another, but instead it was all exploration based. You just accrued resources by digging and then you went up to spend them.
Do you think, just while we're on the subject of story, just briefly, do you think part of the reason there's lack of story is because the game is procedurally generated? Like, and maybe you have more insight into this, but is it harder to craft like a cogent story when the environment is changing each time?
Yeah, like, I think that there are ways that you could do it by having, like isolated areas that are story specific. So you make something like each world, even though it's procedurally generated, has like your starting base, and then there's story point A, B, C, and then you disperse them throughout the world. But that doesn't mean that the player is ever going to experience them in that order, just given the nature of exploration. So they could go like never find A, stumble across C, and then B. And so having a coherent story is going to be hard. It's going to have to be something more like, let's see, what's a good example? Like,
what was that gigantic world, like space sim?
Yeah, No Man's
EVE
Sky.
Online? Oh.
No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Was what I was thinking about. So I think in No Man's Sky, how they did it was there were points kind of randomly distributed in the world, but within like the first few hops from your starting point, there would generally be a story point. And instead of having each story point be linear, well, you can make it linear. If you would make it linear, you would, instead of distributing the story like location A always has story point A, you have like 10 story relevant locations, and whichever one you get to first gives you story point 1, and whichever one you get to second gives you story point 2. And so they become just story markers instead of unique locations. Or you can like change the setting as the story progresses. Like there are 10 spots that will always contain story content, and every time you get to one, it changes what the next one's going to be to match whatever the story's supposed to be at that point. So you can do that procedurally. Or you can do like Em said, you can disperse things in the world, and however you make the story such that however you get to it, it starts to make sense and come together as you acquire more information. Sort of like, what was that space sim we played? It was our game.
I know. Shit, that was a good game.
Was it our game of the year?
Was I around for it?
Yes, we played it last year. Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds.
Oh, yeah.
It was our game of the year.
Did it win?
Yeah, it did.
It was like almost as good as Valda's story.
Mm-hmm.
Great point.
Sure.
But yeah, Outer Wilds is another good example. Like, there's a bunch of story points, and it's fairly open world, and you can encounter them in any sort of order. But the more information you get, the more of a clear picture you get. It's more of a puzzle. Like, each piece is valuable. It makes very little sense by itself. But the more you assemble, the more the picture comes into view.
Right. You know, I still haven't played that game because my computer still can't handle it. It's a tragedy.
We can get you a system that can play Outer Wilds.
I'm going to put my $1,200 Trump check towards making a computer just so I can play Outer Wilds.
It's a good use for it.
Yes, I got that check recently, and I'm just like, I'm just going to donate this. Charge it to the game.
Mm-hmm. Hey.
All right. Well, thank you, Em. Thank you, Pete, for Terraria. It's my turn to pick, though.
Mm-hmm. What you got for us, Gino?
So, at first I was thinking of playing Jet Set Radio, but that game apparently controls like garbage. And is hard to play in the current situation, even though it is available on Steam now. So I got a recommendation that if I was looking for a Jet Set Radio sort of game, I should instead perhaps take a look at Umurangi Generation. It is a photography game. We're finally back in Pokemon Snapland.
Hey, or what was the ghost one? Fatal Frame? We've played a few camera games.
Yep, Fatal Frame. Except this one, you are a freelance photographer in a sort of Jet Set Radio-inspired world, taking freelance pictures for money. And it starts off very chill, and apparently it gets less chill as it goes. So I'm looking forward to playing that. So Umurangi Generation is our next game for the podcast.
All right, let's do it.
Excellent. So thank you, Pete.
Yep, this was an interesting game. Maybe not our favorite, but, worth playing. It's cool.
Good to know about it. It's an important game, even if it's not an enjoyable one for me. Thank you, Em.
Thank you. I think I'm going to stick to Stardew Valley for my, casual farming, whatever, sometimes digging games, as opposed to Terraria. Not bad. I didn't hate it.
You can do worse.
You could do worse. That's the motto.
And thank you, listeners. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, peace!
Break it down.